Thank you so much for joining Lubrizol and Johnson Controls today for an overview of Tyco BlazeMaster fire protection systems. So I'll start by introducing myself first. My name is Lainey Liotta, and I am the Fire Protection Market Manager for Lubrizol Advanced Materials, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company. Then I'll let my co-presenters introduce themselves as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Knight. I've been a technical service engineer in the CPVC group at Lubrizol Advanced Materials for 31 years now.
Tough act to follow. Hi, everyone. My name is Hilary Interrante, and I'm the Global Product Manager for Residential Sprinklers and CPVC at Johnson Controls. I've been with Johnson Controls, having started out with the company when they were Tyco Fire Protection Products about 6 years ago.
Great, and thank you so much to Michelle and Hilary for joining us and being here today. So here's an overview of what we're going to talk about. We'll start with an overview of BlazeMaster CPVC, and then we'll move into everyone's favorite topic, which is compatibility. And then we'll have Hilary wrap things up by going over some of the great products that JCI has to offer. So where I want to start today is talking about why BlazeMaster CPVC, what value can Tyco BlazeMaster CPVC bring to you? And I think what I'm really excited to talk about today is just the relationship between Lubrizol and JCI, because there's a lot of brand names, company names getting thrown around, and I think there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding. So, it's kind of exciting to be able to sort of explain this relationship, and you'll probably learn something new even just on this slide alone. So Lubrizol, or Lubrizol Advanced Materials, is a chemical company that actually manufactures the compound and the resin that goes into BlazeMaster pipe and fittings. Lubrizol owns the BlazeMaster name. A Lubrizol company called B.F. Goodrich actually invented CPVC almost 60 years ago, and we have our own brand names of CPVC that can only be applied to our specific compounds that we manufacture. So we license the BlazeMaster brand name to Johnson Controls, or prior Tyco, and we actually sell the compound and the resin to Johnson Controls, and Johnson Controls themselves, they extrude the pipe in their own facility and they mold the fittings in their own facility in Huntsville, Alabama. So I think it's a common misconception that Lubrizol is the pipe and fitting manufacturer. When in reality, that's not true. We actually just manufacture the compound, as I said, sell it to Johnson Controls, and then they manufacture the pipe and the fittings themselves and apply the BlazeMaster brand name to that. And why I think that's important, and what I think the market gets a lot of value out of, is that you have two major manufacturers backing up this product. So not only do you get the technical expertise and the experience and the quality product that Johnson Controls brings to market, but you also are backed up by Lubrizol, which are CPVC chemical compatibility experts. And so when you buy a BlazeMaster product, you get two of those companies and both of our teams standing behind you. So specifically with BlazeMaster, Lubrizol is incredibly proud of our BlazeMaster brand and how it's really changed the fire sprinkler market since it was launched nearly 40 years ago. You'll see on this slide that over 1 billion feet of fire sprinkler piping systems have been installed across the world, primarily in North America, but we started to see some great growth in Europe, South America, Asia. It really does have a global footprint. So when you think of CPVC, you probably think of apartment buildings or single-family homes. That's immediately where your mind kind of goes. And granted, CPVC is the go-to piping material in those sorts of applications, but it's actually approved for use and very widely used outside of those residential applications as well. It's obviously listed for use in NFPA 13R and NFPA 13D occupancies, but it's approved for use in all light hazard occupancies that are defined by NFPA 13 and, little known fact, for underground water service per NFPA 24. And contractors and building owners not only choose BlazeMaster CPVC for those residential areas, but also for hotels, hospitals, schools, and office buildings because of its better flow rates, its easy and flexible installation process, and most importantly, its resistance to corrosion and scaling. So here's just a few examples of the applications where you can use BlazeMaster CPVC or CPVC in general, and some success stories. This is 3 of thousands that we could use as examples, but I think, I chose these 3 because I think it gives a good outlook on the breadth of applications that CPVC can be applied in. And as listed on the slides here, why do you use CPVC? Why do you use BlazeMaster CPVC? Especially outside of some of these residential wood buildings. And really that comes down to the fact that CPVC can provide a faster and easier install, especially in hard to reach areas or getting into trusses. And that specifically comes into play if you're doing a retrofit or repair or retrofitting a building that did not previously have a fire sprinkler system in it. Another great thing is that you fab or do all of your so-called fab on site. You don't have to get some time at a fab shop and wait for that to get to your job site. And then if there's any changes that need to be made, you don't have to wait for the fab shop to make those changes. You can do it all at once, and it really allows you or allows contractors to meet very tight deadlines. Additionally, we find that many times you're able to downsize the size of pipe because of the hydraulic advantages that CPVC is able to provide. And then more so from the building owner's perspective, CPVC does not corrode. And as we all know, corrosion is a very hot topic in the industry. And there's several great products on how to prevent it or, at least minimize it. But with CPVC, that's not even a concern. So there's, on the slide, there's an office complex, there's a school, and then there's a offshore oil complex where CPVC that was used. And I won't go through and spend time talking about each and every one of those of these on this slide. But if you go to blazemaster.com, there are detailed sort of case studies where you can learn more about each of these, in addition to more kind of success stories ranging from hotels, hospitals, care homes, apartments, another office building, things like that. So I really do encourage you to check those out. And, I do realize that CPVC is not, the answer. It might not be the best choice for every type of application or in every job. However, when you do consider it for some jobs and in particular applications, we do find that contractors are like, wow, we were able to save a ton of money, even if we had to buy, other pumps or, install draft curtains or something like that. The amount that they're able to save in material and labor greatly outweighs any other expense that is required when you use CPVC systems. So we talked a little bit about where CPVC can be used, but I want to kind of help answer the question, why BlazeMaster? And what many people don't realize is that not all CPVC is the same, or as we kind of termed the phrase, not all orange is the same. I know at least I used to, people walk up and look up and they see orange and they immediately think BlazeMaster. But it's actually not true. There are 2 major brands of CPVC, and that's BlazeMaster and Spears FlowGuard. And they actually have nothing to do with each other. Lubrizol only manufactures the resin for BlazeMaster pipe and fittings, not Spears FlowGuard. So Spears FlowGuard is not BlazeMaster, and I think a lot of people get that confused. And that's actually really important because differences in manufacturing, material science, and chemical processing among these 2 brands directly translate into performance and reliability disparities. And examples of that are on this slide. So you'll see that BlazeMaster CPVC not only meets these approval standards, but in most cases actually exceeds the requirements. Our pipe and fittings are engineered to exceed ASTM standards, and in fact, our impact strength is at least 3 times greater than the base requirement. Then you'll see in the second chart below that in a head-to-head matchup conducted by an independent laboratory, BlazeMaster fire protection systems outperformed Spears in burst and impact resistance testing. And I could talk to this I could talk about this all day, but I think it's best shown in the next slide, which is a video of this testing.
When your reputation is on the line, You want to depend on the most secure and reliable CPVC fire protection system available on the market today. Independent laboratory ESI recently supervised tests between BlazeMaster and the competition. First, a test of their ability to withstand pressure. 1-inch BlazeMaster pipe demonstrated a reassuringly higher capability to resist high pressure than did Spears FlameGuard. Then, an impact test. Again, 1-inch BlazeMaster pipe showed it can more reliably handle impact than did Spears FlameGuard 1-inch pipe. With nearly 60 years of technological advancements to rely on, the strongest and most dependable CPVC pipe is BlazeMaster. BlazeMaster pipe is engineered to provide peace of mind for you and your customers. Demonstrably stronger than Spears, BlazeMaster fire protection systems offer greater reliability when it matters most, protecting lives and property, delivering reliability for life.
So I think that video summed it up very well, and we'll talk a little bit more in the next session on compatibility as to how else BlazeMaster sort of outperforms its competition. But before we get to that, I'll just sum up some of the key points. Is that, like I just said, BlazeMaster really is the best CPVC fire sprinkler product or fire sprinkler system product out there. We are the most specified non-metallic fire sprinkler system in the world. And like I touched on at the beginning, you're not only backed by Johnson Controls sales team and technical support, but you also have our Lubrizol reps that are local and ready to help with any technical questions or problems that you might have, help with design, etc. So, BlazeMaster, Tyco BlazeMaster really is a package of not only really quality product, the highest quality of product, but also service behind that. So next we'll move into compatibility, and Michelle will cover that. But before I hand it over to Michelle, I did want to touch on our FBC compatibility program. And so what the FBC compatibility program is it's a Lubrizol program, but it's administered by a third party. So FBC actually stands for FlowGuard, BlazeMaster, and Corzan, and those are the 3 brands of CPVC that Lubrizol owns. FlowGuard is used primarily in residential plumbing. Corzan is used in commercial plumbing and industrial applications. But what Lubrizol did was create a compatibility program specifically for our CPVC brands to help contractors, engineers, building owners, general contractors, etc., with their compatibility questions on their jobs. So, like I said, we invented this program. It's the oldest and most comprehensive, robust compatibility program in the industry. It is tested by a third-party lab, so it is not Lubrizol who is profiting off of this or benefiting. I mean, we benefit from it, of course, but we're not profiting off of this program in any way. It's very stringent, so the third party tests every single product that is on the program, or even the ones that are not on the program. And then we also offer information about, obviously we can't have every single product or ancillary product listed and tested and part of our program. So we'll offer information on our website and on our app about, okay, if there's a brand that isn't listed on our list, what are some things you need to consider, and what's usually okay and what might not be okay and things like that. And one thing I want to point out is, just like I said, that not all orange is the same. This is particularly probably most important when it comes to compatibility. Our program and the products that are on our FBC program applies only to BlazeMaster CPVC or Lubrizol CPVC brands. It does not apply to other brands of CPVC. So when you choose BlazeMaster CPVC, you get that reassurance of us having tested the compatibility of ancillary products and providing the correct and right information, and we're very meticulous about that. And then one thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is that we actually do have an app, and it's the FBC app. I think if you just type in FBC or just Lubrizol, into your app store on an Android or Apple device, the logo will come up, and that's the app. And there's a product finder there where you are able to type in the product that you have a question about and see if it's on our compatible list or our incompatible list. And then, like I said before, if it is not, there's also other compatibility topics that you can search and say, okay, if this is an antifreeze or a fire caulk, that you can go in and see, okay, what should I be looking for in the ingredients of this product to make sure it is compatible with BlazeMaster CPVC. And you can do all of that on our website as well. But, you know, I know that everyone has a mobile device these days, and out in the field, it's pretty easy just to have an app. So I encourage you to download that. And then I will turn it over to sort of the brains behind our program and, you know, very well-known compatibility expert, Michelle Knight.
Okay, thanks, Lainey. Well, the first thing we need to talk about then is what it means to be compatible or incompatible. So many people have the mistaken perception that compatible and incompatible are simply opposite terms. That is, if something is compatible, it will never have any effect under any circumstances. And if something is incompatible, it's always going to make the pipe fail. So this perception is a lot like thinking about alive and dead, as you see over there on the left-hand side of the screen. You're either alive or you're dead. You're nothing in between. But in reality, compatibility is a lot more like cold and hot. There are a lot of degrees of warm and cool in between. And so the question of compatibility becomes, how hot is too hot? Chemicals vary in the amount of effect that they have. Some are very aggressive, some are mildly aggressive, most are somewhere in between. So besides the effects of the chemicals, other factors can contribute to the failures as well, including the strength or quality of the pipes and fittings, which is something that Lainey talked quite a bit about just recently, and the stress that the part is under as it's installed. Those can all be contributing factors to the failure. So we're all in the fire sprinkler industry, and we're all familiar with the fire triangle. The right combination of fuel, heat, and oxygen is required to start and sustain a fire. And the whole premise of extinguishing fires is basically to reduce or remove one of these factors. So without the right combination of these three factors, there's no fire. And it's a very similar with chemically driven failure of plastics. Without the right combination of factors, a crack does not occur. And so the three factors, as I just mentioned, are the aggressiveness of the chemical itself, the mechanical stress on the part, and the strength or the weakness of the part itself. So how do these three factors combine to create a failure crack in a pipe? Well, the question at the bottom of it all is, will the pipe continue to hold pressure, or will it crack and fail? It's just a question of being able to support the pressure load, which is just like any other load. So let's say your best friend falls off a cliff, but you grab his hand at the last second. So here you are, you're supporting a mechanical load. What factors determine if your friend lives or dies? First of all, how strong you are, right? That's basically the strength and the quality of what's supporting the load, like the strength or the quality of the pipe in our pipe example. So the second factor is how much your friend weighs, right? If your friend is big and heavy, he's much more likely to fall and hit the bottom. That's the mechanical stress being supported. So that's the mechanical stress contributing to the cracking of the pipe. And the last factor is the chemical factor. How does that affect this process? Well, are your hands greasy? Did you just have fried chicken for lunch on the edge of this cliff? Even if you're in shape and your friend is small, sometimes chemicals can interfere with the bonds that are holding things together and cause those bonds to come apart. And so in the case of a pipe failure, it's the mechanical bonds or the bonds between the molecules in the CPVC material that's holding the pipe together, holding the pressure inside the pipe. And sometimes chemicals can interfere with those molecular bonds. So in light of the fact that there are three contributing factors, how do we even determine whether products are compatible or incompatible? Well, there are no industry standards recognized for listing ancillary products as compatible or incompatible. There are standards that exist to measure how much effect a chemical has, but there are no standards to tell you how much effect is too much effect. And actually, there are very few ancillary construction products that have zero measurable effect on CPVC. Zero effect might be a good goal in theory, but you would be severely restricted in products you could choose from if that were the standard. In fact, even water has a small measurable effect on the strength of the CPVC. So zero measurable effect is not really a reasonable goal. So how do you come up with a goal or a standard as to what determines compatibility? Well, about 20 years ago, when Lubrizol developed the System Compatible program, what we did was we benchmarked the performance of the chemicals against what, at that time, what we had was 30 years of experience in the plumbing industry and 15 years of experience in the fire sprinkler industry. Now, of course, 20 years later, we have even more experience to go on. So at that time, again, 20 years ago, we tested a lot of products that we knew were working well in the field and weren't causing any problems with the CPVC pipe and fittings. And then we also tested a bunch of products that we knew had caused problems, had caused cracking failures of CPVC pipe and failures in the field. And so by benchmarking against things that we knew were good and things that we knew were bad, we were able to develop test methods and criteria that can reliably differentiate products that are going to be successful from products that are going to cause problems. And so the criteria that we came up with are not zero, but they only comprise a fraction of the allowable safety factor. I'm sure if you've worked with CPVC at all or had any training from one of the experts from JCI or Lubrizol, you've heard it said that there's a safety factor of 2 on the pressure rating of the pipe. That means the pipe can actually support twice as much load as it's rated for. That safety factor is there to account for things like reasonable variation in quality, normal types of installational stresses, and reasonable chemical effects from common construction products. Now, you should be aware that Spears also has a program for listing compatible and incompatible products, but test methods and allowable effect limits, and as Lainey pointed out, the strength of the baseline product, all those things may vary. So be aware of that when you're comparing one list to another. So next we're going to talk about the 3 different factors that can affect a chemical failure. And in terms of material and part properties, I'll just say that this is why it's important, again, to specify BlazeMaster materials from a high-quality pipe and fitting producer such as Johnson Controls. BlazeMaster materials, as Lainey pointed out, have a higher mechanical strength, well in excess of the minimum requirements. That means the chemical has more to overcome in order to create a crack in the pipe or the fitting. And when you buy from a high-quality producer like Johnson Controls, you can be sure that the material is being processed in such a way that its strength properties are optimized. So mechanical stresses and where they come. The operating pressure is an obvious source of stress, but there are a lot of other contributing stresses in an installed piping system as well. As you're aware, the pipe and fittings have an interference fit. That means the pipe diameter is just slightly larger than the socket bottom. That means when you just properly join the pipe to the fitting, it does create a tensile stress in the fitting because the pipe stretches the fitting just a little bit about that. So we'll talk, I actually have an example of how that affects the performance of the pipe and fittings in an upcoming slide. So some other sources of installational stresses include things like just the weight of the pipe supporting itself between the hangers. The pipe is obviously installed with the hangers and it has to support its own weight and the weight of the water in between the hangers. That places some level of stress on the pipe. Sometimes the hangers might be installed a little too tight and clamped down on the pipe. That put some amount of stress on the pipe. Sometimes you might want to bend the pipe a little bit to avoid an obstruction. And there are, of course, allowable bending radii published for CPVC pipe, but that does place some additional stress on it as well. So impingements can be another source of stress. Anything pressing on the pipe can be an impingement. It might be a construction element like a beam or another pipe pressing against the CPVC pipe, or maybe a hanger that's installed too tight and compresses or indents the pipe. So here you can see that's what happened in this photo. There was a hanger that was impinging on the pipe. The installation instructions call for hangers that allow for free movement of the pipe and don't crush or indent it. But in this case, as you can see in the photo on the bottom right, there's a small permanent indentation caused by that hanger there. And then on the inside of the pipe, there's some chemical residue, and there's cracking just right under where that dent is on the outside of the pipe. And so this also shows the need for contributions from both the stress and the chemicals. As you can see, that chemical residue is over, at least half of the pipe wall there. But the only cracking is right there where the stress is elevated due to that over-tight hanger. So next we're going to talk about what kinds of chemicals can be incompatible with CPVC, and we're going to look at some examples of what that kind of failure can look like. So the types of chemicals that can cause CPVC to crack fall into three general categories. The first of these are surfactants, which is just a chemist's term for soap or detergent. Now, not all soaps and detergents are incompatible with CPVC, but there is one particular type of synthetic detergent known as non-ionic surfactants. And those can be environmental stress cracking agents for lots of different kinds of plastics, including CPVC. And so soaps and detergents can be found exactly where you'd expect to find that kind of chemical, in cleaners and disinfectants, mold inhibitors, leak detectors, and we'll see an example of some of that coming up. So the second class of chemicals is natural or synthetic ester oils. Now, this is not the same as what you will often hear in the industry, which is that petroleum-based products are incompatible with CPVC. Actually, mineral oils or petroleum-type oils are very seldom a problem for CPVC. The type of oil that is a problem is oils derived from plant or animal sources or similar types of synthetic oils. And these can be found, obviously, in airborne cooking grease that might settle on the pipe. Incompatible thread sealants often contain natural-based oils. Some types of pump and compressor lubricants contain synthetic equivalents to these natural oils. And also cutting oils that are advertised as sustainable or green might include these types of oils as well. And so the third class of chemicals is plasticizers. Plasticizers are additives that are used to make plastic soft and rubbery. And so when they're incorporated in a soft rubbery material that's in contact with the CPVC, they can actually leach out of that rubbery material and into the CPVC. And since their job is to make plastic soft, they make the CPVC soft or weak. And that can cause it to soften or crack. And these are typically found in soft rubbery materials like wire and cable jacketing, caulks and fire stops, hoses, some types of tubing insulation. And besides rubbery materials, they're often frequently used in weld penetrants that might be used on steel pipe as well. So next we're going to take a look at a few examples of what these incompatible products can look like. So here's an example of what the effects look like from chemicals containing incompatible non-ionic surfactants, such as leak detectors, disinfectants, and of course, disinfectants are a hot topic this year in 2020 with the pandemic going on. Lots of buildings are being disinfected, lots of chemicals are being sprayed around to kill germs. And so here, if those chemicals are incompatible, here is what the effects might look like. You remember I said that the interference fit creates a stress on the fitting because the pipe stretches the fitting a little bit. The pipe is slightly bigger than the fitting socket. And so you'll see these cracks on the fitting on the left there, and that's a plumbing fitting, but it's a CPVC plumbing fitting, so it's very similar to the fire sprinkler material. you can see that the cracks are on the sockets, and they're basically centered on the socket bottom. Some of them don't even go to the socket end. That's because the stress is the highest at the socket bottom, where the interference is the tightest. And so usually you have cracks on the fitting sockets, and they're on the socket bottom, on the bottom of the pipe as it was installed, because if you can picture what's going on when they spray these chemicals around, they spray the chemicals around the building, and they kind of hang in droplets off the bottom of the pipe and fittings, and then they concentrate and dry there. So typically the cracks occur on the bottom of the fittings as they had been installed. And then one of the other types of effects that we see from this kind of chemical exposure is crazing of the cement bead. And again, this is a plumbing cement bead, but the same thing happens in fire sprinkler. You get this kind of crazing effect in the solvent cement, and that can tell you that an incompatible surfactant type chemical has been applied to the outside of the piping system. Now, these effects are very similar to the same kinds of effects you have with airborne natural oils, like when you have cooking grease settling on top of the pipe, only in that case the cracks tend to happen on the top side of the pipe as it was installed, since that's where the grease settles. It doesn't hang in droplets off the bottom typically. Similar types of natural oils are often found in incompatible paste thread sealants, and these can cause cracking of the adapter to which they're applied, as you can see in the photo on the left here. I will point out this kind of failure has virtually been eliminated in the United States by the System Compatible program. Installers have become very knowledgeable about choosing the right types of paste thread sealants, and well, we see this in emerging markets for BlazeMaster in Europe and other places around the world where they haven't quite caught up to the knowledge that's in the industry here. We very seldom see this kind of failure in the U.S., and that's due to the success of the System Compatible program. Anaerobic thread sealants actually cause a different type of failure, however. So as opposed to paste thread sealants, these are the super glue types of thread sealants. And what happens with them is they tend to leach their components into the fluid inside the pipe, and then those chemicals kind of float downstream on top of the water inside the pipe, and they lodge somewhere. And very typically it's at the little gaps at the socket bottoms, the little gaps between the pipe and the socket end there. And they float up into that gap and they lodge there, and they can create a crack from the inside out there, which is what you see is that fitting there is cracked, where you can see that Sharpie marker circling something on the surface there. Almost all anaerobic thread sealants are incompatible with CPVC. So there's only one anaerobic thread sealant on the System Compatible program. If you need to use an anaerobic thread sealant, we urge you to use the one that's on the program, because it was specially formulated to be compatible with CPVC. So as far as we know, that is the only one that actually is compatible with CPVC. And it's important to note here, because these chemicals are leaching out of the thread sealant and floating downstream, they don't necessarily have to be applied to the CPVC part of the system. If these types of thread sealants are used on steel pipe upstream of the CPVC, they can float downstream into the CPVC and cause this kind of cracking, which is what occurred in this case here. Now we'll look at a couple of examples of incompatible products that contain plasticizers. As I mentioned before, some types of wire and cable jacketing may contain incompatible plasticizers. This can cause a crack to form right where the wire touches the pipe, as you'll see in the photo on the left there. Occasionally, however, if the environment is hot, like in an attic or someplace where the temperature's higher than normal, the CPVC can actually soak up plasticizers faster than a crack can happen. And so in that case, a soft spot will develop where the wire is in contact with the pipe, and that's what you can see in the photo on the right there. Now, usually it is communications type wiring, such as Cat5 cable, that has this type of plasticizer in its jacketing. Ordinary electricity carrying wire that's going to the outlets or going to the light fixtures such as Romex type wire, that is usually compatible with CPVC. Some types of foamed rubber tubing insulation also contains incompatible plasticizers. In this case, on the left here, we have some pressed up against BlazeMaster piping, and it's caused a leak in the pipe right at that spot. If this type of tubing is used on the CPVC to insulate the pipe itself, sometimes it can cause the knit lines of fittings to pop open. You can actually tell the difference between compatible and incompatible tubing insulation by the way that it feels. You probably recognize there are two different types of this tube-shaped tubing insulation. One type feels kind of crispy like a pool noodle toy, and the other feels softer and squishier. The pool noodle type is the type that is compatible. If it feels softer and squishier, it may be incompatible, and so we would recommend that you avoid that kind of tubing insulation. Now, some types of caulks and fire stops may also contain these types of incompatible plasticizers, as shown in the picture on the right. There are a good number of fire stops listed on the system compatible program. We definitely urge installers to make use of that resource and install a compatible fire stop. So fire stop manufacturers, they're in the fire protection industry, and they are specialized enough to appreciate the importance of compatibility with the fire sprinkler piping, and so they're willing to participate in our program, and that's why we have a number of products available. However, manufacturers of general purpose type caulk, caulks that could be from bathtubs to windows to filling gaps around the pipe. And so they don't really appreciate the specific importance of compatibility with fire sprinkler pipes. So you won't find any of those types of products on the system compatible program. However, if you go to the page that gives general guidance on other topics that Lainey mentioned, then you will find that we are recommending 100% silicone sealants are usually compatible with CPVC, as well as the polyurethane foam in a can you can also use to fill gaps around CPVC if it's not for a fire-rated penetration. So next I want to touch on a couple of special cases with respect to compatibility. The first one we have is MOLTEN solder flux. Now, as a product by itself, solder flux doesn't usually have much effect on CPVC. You can smear it on the pipe cold, or it can wash downstream from a metal pipe that's installed upstream of the CPVC, and it won't cause the pipe or fittings to fail. However, if the copper pipe is being installed in proximity to the BlazeMaster and the molten solder flux drops off the torch at several hundred degrees Fahrenheit, at that temperature it will soak right into the CPVC. And then it'll cause a weak spot where it is soaked in, which is what has happened here. You can see that little droplet where it hit the pipe. The rest of those little white spots are paint, but that big oval in the middle is where some solder flux hit the pipe, and it's caused a weak spot, which eventually cracked through. Now, spray polyurethane foam is also a special case, and if you visit our website, again, on that other compatibility topics page, you'll find quite a bit of guidance published on this topic. As you're probably aware, this type of foam consists of Part A and Part B, which are mixed and react to form a foam. Now, CPVC is not actually compatible with either Part A or Part B. However, when you react to the final product together and make the foam itself, that is compatible with CPVC. When you mix Part A with Part B, the majority of it reacts together to form a solid compatible polymer. And that polymer foams up and it lifts the rest of the additives up off the surface of the CPVC. And then all those gas bubbles in the foam prevent the additives from migrating back down to the surface of the CPVC. They actually block those additives from moving to the CPVC. And so as long as the polyurethane foam is properly installed and it foams up nicely, as you can see in that picture on the left there, it shouldn't create any problems for the pipe. However, there are cases where it is improperly mixed and it doesn't foam up well, as you can see in the picture on the top right or on the bottom center. And in those cases, it can cause the pipe or fittings to crack, and you can actually see a crack on that fitting in the bottom center photo there. Now, another thing you need to be aware of with respect to spray foams is the fact that as they are reacting and foaming, the temperature can actually get up to more than 300 degrees Fahrenheit inside that foam. So this is well above the boiling point of water. So if the pipe is water-filled and it's buried in 300-degree foam, the water inside the pipe can actually boil and cause the pipe to balloon up and rupture, which is what happened to the CPVC plumbing pipe in the photo on the bottom right. Could equally well happen to BlazeMaster pipe as well. That's just a convenient photo I had for an example was a plumbing pipe. And so we've come to the end of my presentation, and I've thrown this slide back up one more time. I just want to encourage you to use all of the resources that are available to you at FBCSystemCompatible.com. As Lainey mentioned earlier, there's the compatible list, there's the incompatible list, there are videos that can give you more information about compatibility, there's white papers you can download. And as I said, my favorite part of the program is the other topics page, which is it's kind of a big frequently asked questions page, and you can get a lot of guidance about different types of things that aren't on either the compatible or incompatible list, things like paint, wire and cable, drywall, spray-on, fireproofing, for metal construction. And if you can't find the information you're looking for there, there's also a button to ask us a question. So I definitely urge you to check that part of the website out. And that comes to the end of my presentation. I will hand it over to Hilary now.
Great, thanks, Michelle. Every time I listen to you present, I learn something new. Okay, so now that we've talked through the value of BlazeMaster CPVC compound and the chemical compatibility piece, we're going to jump into JCI as a BlazeMaster licensee, a little bit about our product line, some special listings that we carry, as well as a brief introduction to a new product that we recently launched. So who are we? Tyco, Johnson Controls, what's the rapid response brand? There seems to be some confusion still around our company branding, so I want to provide a little clarity up front. Back in 2016, Tyco Fire Protection Products merged with Johnson Controls and adopted the JCI name. So as a company, our name is Johnson Controls. What didn't change about us is our product branding. We continue to use the Tyco brand for our fire sprinkler and CPVC product lines, and specifically for residential products, we continue to use the Rapid Response Residential Sprinkler Systems brand family. So now let's jump into the Tyco BlazeMaster CPVC product line. All of our pipe and fittings are manufactured here in the U.S. in a dedicated state-of-the-art plant in Huntsville, Alabama, where we've been making CPVC products since 1993, originally under the Central Sprinkler name. As the largest manufacturer of CPVC for the fire protection industry, our facility is 79,000 square feet, and it sits on 15 acres of land. The plant incorporates 10 pipe extrusion lines, 16 fittings, injection molding presses, and we also have ultrasonic welding capabilities in Huntsville. We have a complete in-house tool and die shop where we build and assemble tooling for our operations for our CPVC plant, as well as some of our other operations. We have 100 employees, and we run a 24/7 operation in Huntsville. So on to the products. JCI offers a broad range of CPVC products, including pipe in diameters from 3/4 inch up to 3 inch in either standard 15-foot lengths or non-standard 10-foot lengths. Our CPVC fittings are also offered in sizes 3/4 inch up to 3 inch, and it includes both slip fittings and adapters in a variety of configurations. All of our products are made and tested to the highest quality standards, and that's shown by our listings and approvals. We have CUL US listings. Our products are FM approved, LPCB approved, and NSF certified. In addition to our pipe and fittings, we also offer a host of accessories and tools to aid in the installation of CPVC piping systems, such as solvent cements, brackets, hangers, straps, and then other installation tools. I mentioned up front about some special listings. So the Tyco BlazeMaster product line carries a bunch of enhanced listings that really differentiate us from our competition. Some of those listings are for passive purge applications, low pressure dry systems. We recently added a new listing for embedding CPVC in concrete. It's not something you hear too much about in North America at this point. Concrete construction is regularly used in Europe, however, and we've begun to see it take off in pockets of North America as well. So if you see any opportunities with concrete construction, feel free to reach out to your JCI sales rep or Lubrizol demand creation manager for more information on how to install these systems. Even more recently, we've broadened our listing for exposed installations and unfinished basements, which isn't one actually called out on this slide, but I wanted to speak to it because it is so recent. So exposed installations in unfinished basements in accordance with NFPA 13D to allow for system mains and branch lines to be run either perpendicular or parallel to the joists. So prior to the update, the listing was more restrictive in that it required that system mains be run perpendicular to joists and branch lines be run parallel. This change just allows for more flexible and practical system design and installation. Any information on our enhanced listings, as well as the products we went over on the previous slide, can be found on our website at tycofire.com, specifically in our CPVC handbook, also known as the IH 1900 tech data sheet. So all of the information around listings, approvals, product line, part numbers, dimensions, and installation practices, anything you're looking for, the document you see pictured there on your screen is where to find it. And as mentioned, that can be found at tycofire.com. And now I want to talk a little bit about an exciting addition to the Tyco BlazeMaster portfolio. This is our expanded and redesigned line of Rapid Seal sprinkler head adapters. We originally launched 5 Rapid Seal adapters, our first round of Rapid Seal adapters in early 2018, and immediately this product line took off. We received really positive field feedback about the time savings that this sprinkler head adapter enables by eliminating the need for applying dope or tape to sprinkler threads prior to installation. With this more recent launch just in August, so a couple months ago, we expanded the product line by adding 7 new adapter configurations, including a 3/4 inch and 1 inch T, a 3/4 inch spigot adapter, and then 2 varieties of each, the 1 inch back-to-back T and back-to-back cross, which both of, or I should say all 4 of those fittings, the back-to-back fittings, are proprietary to JCI. Additionally, we redesigned the 5 fittings that we were already offering to be more compact, and we took 2 of those 5 fittings, combined them into one design. So our 3/4 inch straight adapter and 1 inch spigot adapter now becomes one dual purpose fitting that can be used for either application. We made our T's and elbows compact enough to be able to fit in a 2x4 wall when installed with a concealed sidewall sprinkler. We see increased use of concealed sidewall sprinklers. So this was one of the goals in redesigning the elbows and adding the T's to our portfolio. This expanded and redesigned product line offers the same benefits as our original Rapid Seal line. Some of those benefits include, as mentioned, the no dope, no tape design, simple installation process, which consists of hand tightening plus 1/2 to 1 full turn, No metal, which eliminates any concerns of dezinkification in hard water environments and meets low lead regulatory requirements that we see both at a local and federal level. And then lastly, the product line carries the same listings and approvals as the original line, including the NFPA certification, which allows it to be used in potable water applications. And I'll just mention, if you want any additional information on our Rapid Seal adapter, please visit our website or reach out to your JCI or Lubrizol rep, and they can provide more information to you and give you some samples. So lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about our warranty terms and procedures. JCI offers a 10-year warranty on its Tyco BlazeMaster line of CPVC products, covering specifically defects in material and workmanship for pipe and fittings, and that 10 years is from date of shipment. JCI and Lubrizol have a really robust behind-the-scenes process in place to evaluate and address field failures should they occur. We partner on this process to be able to provide the fastest and most accurate feedback to our customers to show that we both really truly stand behind the quality of our products. So in the rare event that you experience a field failure, you can work through either your JCI rep or your Lubrizol rep to kick off a failure analysis that looks at all potential root causes of the failure, to include material, manufacturing, and then the chemical analysis piece that Michelle just reviewed. The process ends with detailed findings being communicated back to our customers. And you know, I think the point here is that the partnership between JCI and Lubrizol provides a unique opportunity to really have two companies standing behind you, standing behind the products that you're using. And at the end of the day, we're able to provide a pretty high level of support to our customers and the broader industry because of the structure we have laid out and the partnership we have in place. So with that, I will turn it back to Lainey, and I think we have about 5 minutes for questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Hilary, and thank you very much, Michelle. As always, it's great to hear from both of you. I was able to get back to a lot of the questions that were asked via the Q&A. One thing that did come in that I was in the process of typing a response to, but I will ask just out loud here is, so during your presentation, you mentioned the ASTM standards. What are the differences between the standards for Lubrizol and spheres? Because it showed different ASTMs for both. So the ASTM 442 standard had actually been revised to denote pressure bearing capabilities, and BlazeMaster pipe has a 412006 designation, while Spheres has a 412005 designation, and so ours is actually 25 higher percent than Spheres, and that actually allows BlazeMaster to meet the plumbing codes and be installed in passive purge 13D systems. So there's a question about Rapid Seal for Hilary. Can you talk a little bit about the potential, if any, for cross-threading for Rapid Seal?
Sure, this is a question we get a lot, so I'm happy to address it. So the concern with cross-threading in Rapid Seal is due to the plastic threads that it incorporates. Cross-threading is highly unlikely. The Rapid Seal adapter threads are relatively coarse, so really the only way to cross-thread a Rapid Seal adapter is to have two conditions occur. So the first is poor axial alignment when first engaging the sprinkler with the adapter, and then on top of that, having a sufficiently high perpendicular force on the sprinkler trying to push it into the Rapid Seal threads. You're immediately going to know, especially because you start out by hand tightening this adapter, you're immediately going to know that something's not right. You'll get extreme resistance. You'll know that the sprinkler is misaligned. And this would hold true even if you've never installed a sprinkler before. It doesn't feel right. So yeah, there's no testing specifically to address cross-threading, but if you just give it a try yourself, you'll see just how difficult it is and how smooth it is if you do it the correct way.
Great. Hilary, we had another question of what tools can be used with Rapid Seal?
Sure. So I think the question probably relates to our gasket replacement tool. And if not, feel free to correct me. But if you install a sprinkler, if you remove and reinstall a sprinkler more than 6 months after it was initially installed, you've compromised the gasket, which serves as the seal. So in that event, you have two options. You can either cut out and replace the fitting, or you can use our gasket replacement tool, which so you start out by using a removal pick that we offer or that we provide and remove the gasket, and then use the gasket replacement tool to thread in a new gasket into the adapter.
All right. There's a lot of questions about whether or not BlazeMaster can be installed exposed in light hazard applications. And the answer is yes, it can be installed exposed in light hazard applications. I think the majority of BlazeMaster installations are concealed, but you can install them exposed. There's an exception to that in NFPA 13D for single-family homes in basements. So it actually can be installed exposed in basements, but per the requirements listed in the manufacturer's installation guides in terms of the type of sealing and whether or not blocking is required and things like that. So it just depends on the specific listing. But you can leave CPVC, you can install CPVC in light hazard occupancies exposed.
I saw one question asking about the takeout of the back-to-back T. Jay, you can find that in our CPVC handbook on tycofire.com. Feel free to reach out to either me or your local rep, and we can provide information on that. You're asking about the takeout for the back-to-back T potentially being too short for a semi-recessed sprinkler head trim. And I don't believe that to be the case with the back-to-back Ts. From what I understand, those work well for that application. But take a look at our CPVC handbook. The dimensions are listed in there. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Perfect. I know we're at 2, but there's a lot of really good questions here. So, we'll take maybe 2 or 3 more minutes to address them, especially the ones that have come up. Been asked by more than 2 or 3 people. How often is the compatible and non-compatible list updated? So, Michelle, I'll let you take that one.
So basically the compatible and incompatible list is updated every time we have new information to provide. There's not a regular schedule, but as new participants come on the program, those get added immediately, and as products come to our attention that are incompatible, those are also added as soon as possible. So it's always a good idea to review the guidance on a regular basis.
So yeah, I would definitely, as Michelle had put in the chat, definitely go to FBCSystemCompatible.com or use the app to see all of our compatibility questions, because there's a lot there. And then if that doesn't answer it, you can certainly reach out to us via the contact us button on the site. There are a couple questions. Do we have a certification or license for BlazeMaster installation or a training program? I'm really glad a few of you asked, because the answer is absolutely yes. We have several different methods of giving training, and if you successfully take the training and pass the installation or pass the quiz, you will get a BlazeMaster training card, either digitally or through the mail after you pass. There's 3 ways you can take this training. One is you can do so in person through one of our Lubrizol reps or certified trainers. 2 is we offer online trainings, live online trainings, and you can sign up for those sessions at blazemaster.com/live-online-training. We're hosting them at least once a month moving forward. And then the third option is a self-paced option, which is great. You can just go online to blazemastertraining.com, and there are units there that you can click through and learn at your own pace for basically every different region in the world. So the trainings are localized there. And you're able to receive your training card from there too. I think, I mean, aside from all the compatibility ones, you know, which we can follow up with, but I do encourage you at FBCSystemCompatible.com. I think we've basically covered all of them except for can CPVC used in dry pipe systems, question mark. CPVC is listed for use depending on the manufacturer in low pressure dry pipe systems for residential occupancies. Great. Well, thank you very much. Very, very happy that everyone was able to join us today. And like Hilary said, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. And we look forward to talking more later. Thank you.